We left off on Lamed Daled. Let's start from Lamed Gimel on the bottom. That's where we stopped on the top. The Mishnah says, Mishnah says, you're not permitted to heat the rofim. Rofim are like slate, like what you put on the roof, the tiles on the roof, a slate tile. Versus like oven, why not? I mean, if you have like a piece of slate and use it to put the food on in the oven, why not? Omer Rabbi Chona, Omer Rabbi Yochanan, rofim chadosh maskinon, which means it's a new piece of clay, and by putting it into the fire, you're solidifying it. So by solidifying it, sealing it, to see whether it bursts or not, it's makav patish, perfecting it. Neshet tzorach lebotkon, it has to be checked. So Rashi says, "Im yuchal lekabel libunon." Does it have the capacity to absorb the heat? The b'yomtov lo dilma paki may burst, and if it bursts, yishtakach the torach shel tzorach. So the whole effort was futile. They don't want you. So he's not saying that. Wait a second. Others say it's because of what? It's because of makbeh patish. The first is because it's a question of tircha. Because if it can't absorb the heat, it bursts. So the whole thing it's an act of futility. So they don't want you to do a torach shel tzorach. The others say no because it strengthens it, it hardens it, which is makbeh patish. Rashi says, "Lakshosam behesek rishon hemischas k'miskash hilk agved tzorach yom tiv namihu tzorach miu kaven the behesek zen nasa kli oser." Because it's becoming a kli, you're actually giving it the status of a vessel. It's makbeh patish. That's why you're not permitted. Tanan Hosam. Dorso Shitorf Bakoso. We said, if an animal or a bird, let's say, was trampled upon, or it actually was slammed into a wall. Osherotso. Behemo Umefarchetzes. Let's say Osherotso. Behemo. It was what it was crushed by an animal, and it's like convulsing. V'shosem eis leis. And you waited 24 hours before you slaughtered it, it's kosher. Because that's not the Zolchim. You should see now that if an animal or a bird suffers a trauma, physical trauma, even if you slaughter it within 24 hours and you check it and you find no defect, you're not permitted to eat it. It's a treifa. It's a treifa. But if you wait 24 hours, then it's not a treifa. If it lives 24 hours, but of course it can't have any defect. If you check it and find a defect, it's defective. It's Vare Treifa, if it's within 24 hours. That's what it is. Based on the 24-hour period, from the moment it suffers the trauma, you wait 24 hours, you slaughter it, it's kosher. 100 before, you could check it, it's 100%, everything's intact, it's Treifa. Definitely Treifa. Om Reb Lozer ben Yanai, Mishum Reb Lozer ben Antignis. So Reb Yanai, Reb Lozer ben Yanai says the name Reb Lozer ben Antignis, Sricha Bedika. Meaning, it's true, you could slaughter it, but before you eat it, you'd have to do the internal examination. Why? Because it may have a defect. So Rashi says, Tanan Hos Be'el Treifis, Dorso Torf Bekos, Odom Shedoras Alaof. Here, a person stepped on a bird, stepped on it. O Shezorka slammed it against the wall. O Sherotza Behema Faches Veni Chol Lamod. Shos Meis Leis Yom Echot Sholein B'Shov Tekshero. Omer Reb Lozer Reb Yanam Shum Reb Lozer Ben Tignos Tzricha B'Diko Ki Shos Meis Leis Nami Tzricha B'Diko Lacha Shrita. Shem Nishtaba Rovtzlo said because there's a question. Maybe he broke some of its spinal column when it fell. On Nishtabro Hashedro V'Nifseh HaChutshla, maybe the spinal cord was actually severed. O Echad Mishar Mini Treifo Shias Meis Leis Itzrich the Loshoso. He says, and you have to wait 24 hours. The Loshoso Alpi Shabotko, because if you did 24 hours, even if you checked it, Lomotzba Treifos Treifo. It's definitely a Treifo. Zui Achas Mishwanes Treifos Nikro V'Suke Vorim. That's one of the halom there are 18 locations where an animal will become a treifa. Pierced heart, a pierced lung, all the pierced esophagus, all these things. So this is one of them. If it suffers this kind of trauma, even though the animal is fully intact, you cannot slaughter. You have to wait 24 hours before you slaughter it. Shein Roshim Nikov says Simno, Mishos Meis Leis B'Yadush Lo Nisraske Borel Kimlu Rabbanon. Okay. Sinai, the Risuk Evor Meina Chayu makes leis. Okay? So now the Gemara has a question. This animal that suffered this trauma, and there's a very strong likelihood, when you check it, it's going to be a problem. Are you permitted to slaughter this animal on Yom Tov? Why? Because it's a question, it's a tircha. What happens if it turns out to be treifa? Comes out, you inconvenience yourself for no reason. You're not able to benefit. Do we say that since it has an issue, there's reason to be concerned that it may not be fit for, because it may be defective, and therefore you should not slaughter it? Although, since factual Torah says you're permitted to slaughter it, you have a right to slaughter it. Okay? That's the question. Rashi says, what's the shaila? Micha Shina holds Shicha B'dika V'Syallo Reyeso. Micha Zin Reyeso Begavo Mishub Chashash Yisem Locha B'Yom Tev Dil Mishtach Treif Niptza Shokta Shalotzorach. He says, Vishlo Mishabeim Zafgad Machsmir Nafshin Bat Kina Mios Abchina Ruba Ruba Heim Saying Treif was Hochamai. Here, regular animal we rely on rove. Majority of animals are kosher. That we check it is a chumrah. But this animal, that you check, you have to check it. Because over here, there's reason to be concerned that even if it lives 24 hours, it may have broken its spinal column. It may have severed its spinal cord. So there's reason. So over here, since there's a chance, let's say you slaughter and it turns out to be a treifa. You machal Shabbos. You chal Yom Tov, because you're only permitted to slaughter when it's ofel nefesh. But you only know it afterwards, whether it's not. An ordinary animal, there's no reason to suspect that it's a treifa. Therefore, you have a right to rely on rove. Here, there's no rove. If these areas have to be checked, because it's very likely if it was slammed against the wall, so with such impact, some of its vertebrae may be broken, and if they're broken, it's a treifa. If the majority are broken, or if the spinal cord is severed, it's a treifa. No. You're not. There's not a suffix treifa. There's reason to suspect it may be a treifa, because it suffered. It had this accident. We're talking about after 24 hours. After 24 hours, there's strong reason to believe that it's defective. It's a defective animal, and you'll be able to find the defect if you check it. So but if you slaughter and then you find out it's to be defective, comes out you did a melacha, which is not ochel nefesh because you can't eat the animal. A regular animal, you have a right to rely on rove. So therefore, the likelihood to be a problem is unlikely. So you have a right to rely on rove. But here, there's reason to suspect it may not be. So if you slaughter during the week, they check it out. That's it. It's not a problem. But Yom Tov, because it's such a serious question, maybe you shouldn't slaughter it because there's a strong likelihood you're not going to be able to eat the meat. That's the Gemara's question. Okay? Omar Leisi, it's Tanina. We learned in the Mishnah. We have a Mishnah to support this. It says, Emelabnis Arofi. Litzelsben. You can't heat the slate to broil on it, a maika of it. Why not? So what did he answer? We're speaking about it's a new piece of slate newly formed, because it may burst, it may break, so it's a tircha, you're going to inconvenience yourself for no reason. The other one says, no, it's not because there's a chance it may be a problem, because you're solidifying it. It's makam b'patish. It has nothing to do with, you're doing something which is an act of futility. Just as a question I'm asking. Rashi before said, there were two opinions why you're not permitted to heat a new slate. Either because it may burst, so that's called the tircha shelo tzarach, you inconvenience it for no reason. The other is makam b'patish, since it was never heated before, so it solidifies it, so that gives it its status of a kli. Okay? Over here, if you slaughter it, there's a strong reason to believe it may be a treifa, even if it lives 24 hours, because if it has, the majority of its vertebrae are broken, it's a treifa, even if the spinal cord is not severed. And if the spinal cord is severed, even if the majority are not broken, it's a treifa. And we're talking about treifa. If it's a treifa, the act of slaughtering was not permitted. You weren't permitted. I'm not talking about a tircha. Before, if the slate bursts, because it can't absorb the heat, because it wasn't formed right. Okay? So we don't allow you to, to inconvenience yourself for no reason. But here, it's much more serious than that. Here, it's a question, if there's a problem, you may be doing a melacha. So how do we even compare the two? So I think it's a koshkin. If we say that the only reason why not is because it may break, may burst, and therefore if a tircha we don't want it, it's because there's a chance it may be that. So over here where there's a chance you may be violating Yom Tov, because since there's a strong likelihood it became a treifa, If you slaughter it, definitely we shouldn't allow it, because if then it comes out, the shechita is not ochel nefesh, because you're not going to be able to benefit from the shechita. That's the first question. They're not comparable in terms of one's a drabonon, this is the oraisa. The answer is, so for a drabonon we're machmir. Of course, there's a concern it may not work out. Here, there's a strong light, it may not work out either. Maybe a treifa, therefore, you shouldn't be permitted to slaughter the animal. Okay? So Tosas says, top Tosas, something interesting. We're saying a slate which is newly formed, you shouldn't heat, because either may burst or you're actually solidifying it. So Tosas says, from here they wanted to draw let's you buy a new pot made of earthenware. It was never used before. He says you shouldn't use it because it's like here. There's a chance on Yom shouldn't use it first on Yom Tov because it may burst. You put food in, it burst. It undermines the whole simchas Yom Tov. He says he's differentiating. You put the slate directly on the fire. You heat it. When something has no food on it, it's more likely to there's a stronger chance of burst. But if you have a pot filled with liquid, where the food actually, the heat is absorbed into what's contained in the pot, the likelihood of bursting is remote. Right? An empty pot, the heat is only distributed into the material. If you have something else in the pot, the heat is transferred into whatever's contained in the pot. So that minimizes the heat. Okay? Further. Tana Rabbanu, we're learning about Tana v'kirem chadoshim. A new oven, a new kira. It's like a box with a hole in it. Hare'elu kol hakel mitor b'chotzer. You're permitted to transport it. You can transport it in the chotzer. It's not boktzitz. Ain't sochen osa b'shemen. You're not permitted to wax it with oil. Take a rag with oil or fat, smear it on the walls. You're not permitted. And you're not permitted that after they're used to immerse it into cold water, because it's like tempering, like steel. You heat it, then you put in cold water. But if you want to cool it in the oven now, because in the old days they would paste the dough on the walls. Let's say the oven is so hot you're concerned when you paste it on the wall it'll actually burn the dough. So they take the oven, they immerse it in water to cool it down. Then afterwards they put it back, and then you can do it. He says if it's to solidify the clay, you shouldn't do it. You're not permitted. But if it's to cool down the oven so you should be able to bake in it because it's too hot otherwise, that you're permitted to do. Okay. I mean, you have to say it's not a psik ratio, right? It says if the intent is to solidify the oven, it's a clay oven, and it wasn't used in the past, it's a new one. So if it's heated, then you put it into what happens? It contracts, it solidifies. It's like tempering steel. But if it's for baking, and you want to cool it down so the dough shouldn't, but it's a psik ratio. Simultaneously, it's inevitable. It's happening, right? So you have to say over here, it's not inevitable. It's going to happen. It's ein miskaven. It's possible it may happen, but if your intent is specifically for that, I'll give you an example. Gemara says we rule like Rav Shimon ein miskaven is mutar. If you do something where the outcome is not inevitable, you're permitted to do it. For instance, if you want to pull a table or a bench on earth, and there's a question, you may create a furrow, you may not create a furrow. You're permitted. But what I'm saying furrow comes about. There's no liability because you never intended. And the pulling of the bench is not synonymous with creating a furrow because it doesn't have to happen. Okay, that's called ein miskaven. What about a person, he pulls the bench and he intends to create a furrow, and a furrow is created. He's in violation of Shabbos. Even though if he wouldn't have had that intent, he wouldn't be in violation. Because it's not definite, but he wants to on the chance that there may be a furrow. He's pulling it to create a furrow in the ground. He's chayiv. Same thing here. Even though initially when he pulls it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But he's hoping that it should happen.
Theoretically, he's going to benefit.
Yeah, but no, he wants the furrow to happen. As he's pulling it, there's a chance it may happen. And if it happens, he wants it. If it happens, he has to bring a chatos. He violated Shabbos or Yom Tov. He violated, okay? What about if he didn't have it in mind? He just wants to pull the table. He never intended to create it. He's not interested in the furrow, and the furrow happens. Totally, it's even permitted. It's permitted. So I'm saying over here, what it says, if you have a new clay oven and it's hot, you should not put it, immerse it in cold water for the sake of strengthening the clay so it should solidify. So there, so I'm saying it's not a psikration. It's not inevitable that when you put it into cold water, it's going to happen. But if that is the person's intent, and it happens, then he's in violation of Yom Tov. But what about he does it because he doesn't want the bread that you're going to paste on the walls to get burnt? It's permitted. Because he's not interested in solidifying it. It's not a psikration that it's going to happen. Okay?
Even if he wants to benefit, he's not doing it for a reason, but it's a benefit.
What? Say it over there.
Even if he knows he's pulling the bench.
He doesn't know necessarily we would. But he has in mind that it should happen. And it happens.
Oh, so
It's not inevitable it's going to happen. But there's a chance it may, and he wants it to happen. And it happens. He violated Yom Tov, violated Shabbos.
the first time you use it, put it in cold water, he has no intention, he has no...
When you put it in cold water. If you put it in cold water, so the bread shouldn't get singed, shouldn't get burnt, that's permitted. But if you're putting it in only...
Yeah, you're putting it so the bread doesn't get singed, but at the same time, for the first thing, the first time you use the oven, people put it in cold water because it's also strengthens the oven.
It's a problem. If he had that doom, kavanah, it's a problem. Once he has in mind makah b'patish, it's finished. It's not permitted. Okay?
All these things, the machshava, these things are just...
Machshava determines whether you're in violation or not in violation.
But only he knows that.
So,
No, I'm just saying, he brings...
it's in the miskaving.
It's his decision to bring the chata, so there's no anything here.
Right, 100%.
As you said before,
Yeah. Okay, turn around on it. Over here is a tosis. Yep, that tosis says... Further. Tan Rabbanan. Mogen Sarosh Saragalayim. Now, in the old days, people, if you bought a chicken and the chicken had feathers or hair on it, how did you remove it easily? They would take scalding hot water and they pour it on the chicken skin. And then the feathers, everything comes out easily. Because it expands, and therefore the feathers or the hair comes out easily. Okay? So it says you're permitted to do this on Yom Tiv, and afterwards you can even take, if you want, you could take a fire and singe it off. You're singeing off the feathers and the hair off the chicken. But to use some kind of depilatory to burn it off, that you shouldn't. Okay? You don't use lo b'charsis, earthenware, earth, lime, then goes no some misbrine. Well, you want to take a scissor and snip it off. You're not permitted. Then goes and say Yeribet Tasparshal. Let's say you have a special gardening scissor, and you usually snip off the leaves or whatever. You shouldn't use that regular scissor that you normally clean up the vegetable with. This is uvder chol. Avasagnes hakundis vesachbius, different kinds of beans. Umasiken oven b'porni, you're permitted to fuel and bake in a porni. It's a larger type of oven. Umacham b'antichi, you could warm up hot water in an urn. Vein oven b'porni, but to bake it are permitted. Adosho shemeti bochis. If it's brand new, you shouldn't break in it because it may burst. Okay? There you go. He says over here, well, why we only speak of taking the hair off the legs of the goat or the sheep? What about its body? He says no. The body we don't allow it. Why? Because you're able to strip off the whole skin. That's the hide. You're taking that off anyway. So if you take off the hide, you won't have the skin. The meat will be available to you. But the leather on the legs, right? That you don't usually strip that off. That you leave on the animal. Therefore, if you want to eat it, have the hair there. It's something which is, of course, to be seen as not pleasant, not edible. Therefore, you're permitted to scold the skin, to remove the hair, or to actually to cut it off with a scissor. Tanu Rabbanon. Ein ofrim b'mapuach. What about if you want to use a bellows on Yom Tif? Avon ofrim b'shoferes. But you use like a utensil that you blow, like blowing glass. I mean, why would you want to use the mapuach? I mean, it's for blacksmith. Is that now? Okay, right. Hear this. Ein ofrim mapuach. Aval novchin b'shoferes v'msakt zashput v'mechadin also. You're not permitted to fix the spit if it gets burnt, and you can't sharpen it. You're not permitted to break a reed and use that, and you're going to broil on the reed. But you're permitted to break open the walnut, the matlis, with a cloth. We're not concerned it may tear. This you take in the old days. Remember, on Pesach you have filbert nuts, walnuts. You used to put it in a handkerchief, slam it on a rock. And when you do that, you can tear the handkerchief, the cloth. You're permitted to break nuts in a cloth, and you're not concerned it may tear. Because even if it tears, because the question is mekalkel. See, it's difficult. We rule halacha. Normally, mekalkel is not permitted. If you do a destructive act on Shabbos Yom Tov, it's not permitted. What about if you mekalkel tzorach ochel nefesh? You do a destructive act for the sake of eating. That you're permitted. For instance, let's say you have a package, and the food, if you open it a certain way, you're creating a kli. But if you destroy the kli, right? So on a Torah level, you're not in violation. But rabbinically, you're not permitted to do an act of mekalkel, something which is destructive. However, Chazal say, tzorach ochel nefesh, for the sake of accommodating your food needs, you're permitted to. It's normally rabbinically forbidden, but you're permitted. No, that's so it's only by binyan. That's so Am Naslifnos. If you dismantle to build, so that's the same. Or Korei Am Naslifnos. I tear in preparation for sewing. But if you take it in the handkerchief, even if it tears, this tear is mekalkel. Because it's mekalkel, therefore it's permitted. No, it doesn't say that. It says, because I'm not concerned it may tear. And Rashi says, and even if it does tear, worse, what are you doing? It's mekalkel. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that's correct.
You can use that?
Sure. That's not a question. That's not a question using that, correct.
Even if the same way you do it during the week.
No, it's okay. Yeah. If you have nothing else, you can use a hammer to break the nuts, correct? Okay. Okay. Omer Belezer, Omer Odom Muktzah, Erev Shabbos, V'Shvius. A person stays, Muktzah means the location which you store things there, like a storage location. So a person stands by this location, where this warehouse of his, Erev Shabbos, Erev Shvius. It's Erev Shabbos during the sabbatical year. He says, from here I will take tomorrow. Yeah. Meaning, now, during Shemitah, we take Truma Meiser. During Shemitah, do you have to give Meiser to the Levi? From the produce and the grain of Shemitah, do you have to give Meiser to the Levi? What do you say, Judah? So the Gemara says you don't have to give Meiser. Why? Because why does the Levi get Meiser? Because he has no portion in the land. But since during Shemitah everybody's equal, because this produce he does have a chelik. He's no worse than anybody else. As a result of that, you're exempt from Meiser. So if you have produce in Shemitah, the only thing you have to do is take Truma. Meiser does not be taken. Okay? That's what it says. So over here. Right now. Truma you take, but not Meiser. Meiser you don't take. You're right. No, but now you take it for you take it for yourself. A guy goes in, he collects a bushel of wheat. Does he have to tithe? He has to take Truma, he has to take. Yeah, sure, he keeps it himself to Kohen. But let's say he's not a Kohen. So he has to find a Kohen to give it to. Okay? I'll get further. Okay. Now we're speaking about it. He says he's tithing it before Shabbos, and it's Erev Shis. He says tomorrow I will take from this. I mean, this is Truma. He does everything before. But he's not making any markings. He didn't he just said the northeast up to a certain point. He has to make a marking, from this and from that. Rashi says, the Siman, Dame Breira. Hear this. He says, tomorrow, according to Tanakama, he holds Breira. Tomorrow I will take from this, and whatever it is to be Truma will be Truma in this. He doesn't. The Chachamim say no, he has to mark it. Because he can't rely on tomorrow's tithing that it was meant to be the Truma from today. It's just removing the tithe. You can tithe it verbally. You don't have to tithe with physical action. Right? That's not local. You can tithe, say, the northeast corner should be Truma. Right? You can do that. So over here, the Tanakama says, it's enough for him to say, from here I will take Truma tomorrow. That's it. You don't have to do more than that. The Chum say no. Actually, you have to mark it to identify what it is, because during Shemitah. No, but we're talking about here. It's Erev Shvis. He has things that are from before. He has both. In the field, he has Shemitah things, and he also has things which are not.
But he's marking off those Truma, the Truma that he's going to separate.
He marked off more than Truma. No, but he gave it according to what we're saying. Truma he has to give. Maisi doesn't have to give. Of course, I told you. The only reason why you have to give it to Levi because he's denied. Shemitah, nobody's denied. Everybody's equal regarding the land. Okay, let's see.
What's he marking off?
No, he has to mark off the Truma. No, the Truma. Which is the Truma? According to Tanakh, it's enough to say, tomorrow I will take Truma from here, and I'll decide where tomorrow. But tomorrow was determined because I said, whichever I take tomorrow, that should be the Truma. So Rashi says, what's the machlokes with the Yesh Be'er, Ein Be'er? Since it hadn't been identified before, you can't rely on that. Tanakama says you could rely on that. Tanan Hosan, Hatinok Shetom Lutenim Erev Shabbos. Young children went, they took figs and they hid them away before Shabbos. V'shochon, they forgot about it. They never took mice on those figs. Okay? Motzei Shabbos lo yochenu. You're not permitted Motzei Shabbos. Elim Kain Yisro. Since initially mice wasn't taken, so when Motzei Shabbos comes, first you're going to have to tie those figs, and then you can eat it. And what's the consideration? What's the consideration? Not. What? So, one second. So Rashi, Tino Shadom, Besode Obigino, Lachilo Shabbos, Shochu Velo Isru, Lo Yochel Avagav Kamlan and Atev Maschai B'Maiser, Lo Ochlo Achilo Sarai, Achir Pnei Abayis, O Pnei Achotzer, B'Metzio, Chilo Shabbos, Chashuva, Reish Lo Harei Keva, Hutmenu Lachilo Shabbos, Vupu, No Katinogis Rubusi. Stop for a moment. The halacha is like this. What if something wasn't fully processed? You won't go out in the field, you want to eat it. On the Torah level, you can eat as much as you want. Without tithing. Because it only has to be dogon. Dogon means fully processed grain. So if it hasn't been fully processed, brought to the silo, you can eat it in the field. Except rabbinically, they say you can only eat something which is inconsequential. To eat a full meal of it, rabbinically, you're not permitted unless it's tithe. Okay? Now, Shabbos, the Torah says, what is Shabbos called? It quotes a posuk, V'korasa l'Shabbos oneg. Anything you eat on Shabbos is called oneg. It gives you pleasure. Because in the Shema Yisero. So it comes on a Shabbos, even if something is not nigmar malocha, even though it's not fully processed, you can't eat any of it. Even a small amount has value because of course Shabbos oneg. Because everything on Shabbos is oneg. Since it's oneg, that means the less has the value of more. So let's read. Tinoshe Talmud Tain Be'er Shabbos Shochel Lo Yisru Motzei Shabbos Lo Yochel M'Kein Yisru. So Rashi says, so why do we pick on children? We have to tell the story. Children hid away the V'haid Noka Tinok Shebusi Dashmin Yesh Le Machshava Al Yidei Maise HaMochiach Kin Omar B'chal Shochin Teinim Dov Shnigma Lachton Elam Kain Chosh V'aleim L'Ktzios Okay. Utanan nami hamavi teinim b'chatzero. Liktos. Yeah. Originally he took figs, brought them into his courtyard. Liktos. What's liktos? To press. Yeah. His child family could eat of it something which is inconsequential, but more not. The pot from taking truma meiser. Boy mino rova mirav Nachman Shabbos mau shitikva muktzor l'meiser. See Rashi here. Krega. Ashtech Shemi V'chatzero Liktzos Liabshan Lasus Meikzios Lachnish Nasakzios Dorsum Kilo Anveis Ochel Min Aray Pturim Mil Aser and Chotzek Ovas Berias Ponim Elo Bedover Shen Nigro Melachto Boilo Rovo Shabbos Miyam Chotzero Difmin. Okay, let's stop here.